Hello there. What is going on, my friends? Today we have a Star Wars Shatterpoint article to talk about. This article is covering the unit stat cards. It is going into a lot of the statistics about a unit, how much health they have, some of their special abilities, some information about wounds, and even a little bit about stances, which are going to be very, very cool. So we're going to talk about this whole article in today's video, a little admin stuff before we dive in. I talk a lot about Star Wars tabletop games, so if you're interested in learning more about games like Star Wars Shatterpoint or Star Wars X-Wing or Armada or Legion and other Star Wars games and general Star Wars stuff in general, you're General Grievous, General Kenobi. Anyway, all kinds of general stuff related to Star Wars and tabletop gaming. This is the right place to be. We are currently doing a $25 Amazon gift card giveaway. If you want to enter to win that, you just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that. And I also want to thank today's sponsor, Luxury Playstyle Full Metal Tokens. Compatible with a lot of games like Star Wars Legion, X-Wing, Magic the Gathering, Keyforge. They are absolutely gorgeous. We're looking at some of the Star Wars Legion tokens up here on the ad right now. They're absolutely fantastic tokens. You're going to love those. I use them in all of my games. They make me want to play my games even more, and they're gorgeous, all double-sided, very functional and beautiful, and they really kind of light up the table when you pull them out and to start to use those in your games. If you head over to luxuryplaystyle.com, you can check them out. Don't forget to use code Crabbok VIP to save 15% while you're there. They also make great prize support. So whether you are looking to host some tournaments and want to have some really great prizes to hand out, or you're looking to just treat yourself, head over to Luxury Playstyle. And don't forget that code Crabbok VIP. All right, so let's jump into this article because this is a pretty cool article. We've got some things to talk about. There's first off, there's two different statuses for a unit. There's wounded and defeated. And we're going to talk about that in regards to the Anakin Skywalker card here that is fully revealed. Now, we actually have his stat card. A lot of these stat cards have been kind of revealed, but most of them had been kind of blurred out, and we're finally getting a good look at General Anakin Skywalker. And so, this is General Anakin Skywalker. So you can get, I like how the door is open for other versions of Anakin Skywalker. You could potentially have Padawan Anakin Skywalker or even little kid, little Annie. I think there's all kinds of different, room for additional versions. And I think that's a cool thing. We see he has a force jump, and I'm going to end this, a deflect ability, and this is where the fun begins. And those are his abilities, as you can see there, marked there in this handy-dandy diagram you've got here. He's also got tags, such as 501st Force User, Galactic Republic, and Jedi. And those, of course, are hooks where other things are going to be able to reference this unit. And he's got stamina and durability. This is a very interesting thing, and this was one of the things that this article is talking about. Basically, stamina is his hit points. He's got 11 stamina. He's got 11 hit points. He can basically take 11 wounds before he's defeated, but being defeated doesn't mean that you are off the board. You have to be, or rather being wounded, I should say, doesn't mean that you are off the board. You're not fully defeated until you have all your stamina, but you basically think of durability as it looks like it's basically just a little extra threshold, like your unconscious health, so to speak. Even though you're not necessarily unconscious, you're wounded to the point of a certain threshold, and so there's the ability to actually completely remove somebody once they have wounds, I guess, at the end of their activation, if they have wounds equal to their stamina and additionally their durability. So it kind of gives you, hey, this is what's going to push me over the top. And but since we already know that from other articles that units can heal, that extra buffer is kind of maybe a way to kind of keep you on the tabletop, keep you playing, and keep you from not having your miniature picked up and removed off the board. So that's an interesting thing. And of course, we're going to have to wait and see to what kind of gameplay impact exactly it means to actually be wounded, but maybe not disabled. We know at least part of that in reference to this article, because when it comes to force symbols, activating abilities and things like that, the force jump that Anakin Skywalker has one force symbol near it. And that's in active abilities. There's different types of abilities. Let's talk about the different types of abilities first, and then we'll jump into the force cost of some of these abilities, because I think the force cost is pretty cool. Active abilities can be used at any time during a unit's activation. So think of those as kind of almost like actions, right? Except they're not actions, but they're active abilities. So things that you can do at times when you can typically do actions. You have reactive abilities that are going to say when they happen. They can only be used in response to a specific triggering event. Of course, like deflect would make sense, right? Deflect says, hey, after a ranged attack targeting a character in this unit is resolved, the unit may use this ability if the attack roll contained one or more of this kind of shattered X, which I'm guessing is a miss or a fail results. The attacking unit suffers, I guess, 2 damage. That's what it looks like. So that's pretty cool. So basically, if they don't hit you very, very accurately, you are very likely to deflect and have them suffer 2 damage in return, which is pretty cool. So those are reactive abilities. There's also innate abilities. Innate abilities are always in effect and never have a force cost. In addition to normal innate abilities, some units have a special innate abilities known as tactics and identity innate abilities, which is pretty cool because they'll all have a kind of a similar kind of design. So innate is almost like a passive in a certain way. Tactical abilities are special innate abilities that allow units to work together. The effects of them are resolved at the start of a unit's activation. And in identity abilities are special innate abilities unique to primary units. Each identity ability explains how it is triggered and used. Note that while identities are often resolved in response to a triggering event, they are innate abilities and do not preclude a player from using a single reactive ability in response to the same event. So a lot of text here. So basically, if you have an innate ability that also does something like deflect, you can still use a deflect and then this. So let's talk about General Anakin Skywalker's abilities. He's got Force Jump. That's an active ability. He's got 2 reactive abilities. He's got I'm going to end this, which costs 2 force, as opposed to Force Jump, which only costs 1. It says, after this unit makes a combat action, it may use this ability. One character in this unit, of course, that would just be him. The reason that they say one character in this unit is because we know from one of the first articles that there's a difference between character and unit. For example, the 501st Troopers or any multi, base unit is basically going to have multiple characters in there. So the character means the model or the mini or the base, effectively. And since, for most characters in this game, it's going to be 1 unit equals 1 character, but not always, because like the B-1 battle droids or the clone troopers and things like that are still going to be 1 unit can equal 2 characters. And it is possible we could get, variations on that in the future. But either way, for future-proofing it, it'll say 1 character in this unit may make an attack targeting one of the same enemy character within range and line of sight. So basically, it's kind of a double attack, right? For I'm going to end this. Which also leads to my theory that you can only do each of those basic actions 1 time each. That's why this is such an important thing. Deflect, we talked about that already. It's if somebody doesn't hit you perfectly, you're going to hit them back for 2 damage. That's also a reactive. And this is where the fun begins, is his, what do they call that one again? His identity ability. Now this says, when a character in this unit wounds an enemy primary or secondary unit. Is he going for the names? Anakin doesn't want to waste his time cutting down battle droids. He's going straight for Asajj Ventress or something like that, right? After the effect is resolved, move the struggle token 1 space towards your momentum tokens. Then, the wounded unit. If the wounded unit is a primary unit, each Galactic Republic character may. And it's the symbol for stamina, so I'm assuming that means they may heal, which is a really cool ability. If Anakin Skywalker basically attacks then an enemy primary, a leader, somebody he thinks is worthy, that inspires the troops and everybody is magically healed, perhaps through the Force. So I like that. I like that as that's a pretty interesting ability, and that's also moving your momentum or moving the struggle closer to your side. Again, that's how you're going to win the struggle. That's a way, basically, Anakin can, kind of help complete objectives by being aggressive, and that's kind of what Anakin Skywalker wants to do. So that is pretty cool. So that's Anakin's particular card. They show us a little bit of Bo-Katan's card. Also, she has the tactic ability, which is kind of like an identity, but she's not a primary, so she's going to have this tactic. And that says, at the start of this unit's activation, choose another allied Mandalorian character. The chosen character may, I think is that jump or move? Let's see, because it's got an arrow kind of going up. I want to compare that to Anakin's. Yeah, it's the same one. So I think basically it's letting Mandalorians use their jetpacks and jump, which is kind of cool. High ground is supposed to be pretty important in this game. You got to play it a bunch and really find out, right? I'm excited to try out this game. But they also talk about that both Gar Saxon and Bo-Katan have this ability. So it's presumably Gar Saxon will have Pride of the Mandalore as well. And I think that's going to be an interesting thing, because even though for your first game you might want to do, like good guys versus bad guys, right? Like Gar versus CIS or whatever. Since list building is a lot more open here, you could easily make a full build that's like, pretty much all Mandalorian themed, or almost all Mandalorian themed, right out of the core box. And that's going to really open the door for more stuff, like especially as like Jango Fett comes out. I'm really curious if Jango Fett is going to have the Mandalorian keyword. That's like one of my biggest things that I'm really curious about right now. Is Jango Fett going to be a Mandalorian as it applies to this game? I guess that's going to go back to like what's the I feel like that's a question that Lucasfilm would have to answer. Do they want him to be a Mandalorian in this game or not? Do they want him to synergize with other Mandalorians in this game? And how how does that play into? I mean, I feel like with Book of Boba Fett, it probably will be, right. I don't want to do too many spoilers, but there's a little bit that kind of goes into that. So that's pretty interesting. There's one more thing I want to talk about, and it's these Force abilities. So this article also talks about your abilities as you take wounds. The force cost of your abilities goes up. So like force jump is going to cost just 1 normally, but if you've got like 3 wounds on Anakin Skywalker, that's going to mean his force jump now costs 3 additional force points, which means as he gets more and more heavily wounded, he's not going to be doing as much. He's going to be doing basic actions or trying to heal up so this way he can use the force again. I mean, gosh, imagine if he got wounded really, really bad. He might have to have a whole metal suit. And then what would happen? Spoilers! So, anyway, that is a quick look at the stat cards. There's a little more here where they talk about the stance cards. So, this is pretty interesting. So we have a look here. Shatterpoint's combat resolution mechanics are so key to the game that it will focus on a whole upcoming article where we'll be diving into the system that brings the action and dynamic action of the Star Wars duels and blaster fights to the tabletop like never before. Suffice to say that here, in addition to a unit's stat card, each unit also has an additional card called a stance card. Stance cards list all of the unit's attacks, defenses, and combat tree. Much more on that later. Some of the unit's stance card, typically primary units, are double-sided that can be flipped back and forth between the different fighting styles. This adds another element of tactical choice and personalization to the main characters of each squad, and they're going to show those here. So, stance cards are very, very interesting. They talk about primary units being double-sided, or typically primary units are double-sided. I imagine there might be some that are some double-sided cards for like maybe Padawan Ahsoka, if it would have different stance. I don't know. It depends on how much she's learned by that point in time. I don't know. But yeah, so like this is like you have combat trees on here, so that's interesting, and so I think this opens up a whole bunch more questions, but this is something they're going to be talking about more in the future, and maybe you should stick around and subscribe to this channel if you want to learn more. Wink, wink. But yes, so this is more stuff that's coming. We see, we've got Maul there with Dark Rage, and he's got this Juyo and double-bladed lightsaber. There's numbers on here. There's also numbers here. Melee and range. It looks like Maul is rolling, I'm guessing 7 attack dice in melee, 5 defense dice in melee. Maybe for ranged attacks, he still rolls his 5 defense dice, but maybe he doesn't have any range attack because there's nothing for attack dice there. That's kind of what it looks like for me. 1 to 2, like, and then we have these other charts here, and these look like they're different, different maybe actions or like wounds. There's different symbology, right? Some of these allow you to jump. Maybe it's if you do enough damage to somebody, then you can move. Like jump off of them into somebody else or something like that. I can springboard off of somebody potentially. I'm not sure. There's definitely a lot of questions that go into this, as well as these combat trees. That symbol of the fire seems to be damage related. So maybe for every 2 wounds Maul gets, he gets to advance along a tree. Maybe for Asajj Ventress, maybe she has to do a wound and a heal in order to advance. I don't know. I don't know how all that works. But we're going to have to stay tuned and find out. Your guess is as good as mine. All right, guys. That is going to do it for today's video. We are talking about Shatterpoint, and we're going to continue to be talking about Shatterpoint. It's going to get a lot of focus this year because it's coming out this summer. Pre-orders are now open, although a lot of people will probably want to wait until they see the gameplay before they pre-order. But if you're like me, you might probably already have a pre-order in. So let's see what happens. All right, guys, thank you so much. I want to thank you for hanging out with me today. Big thanks to my patrons. You guys are absolutely amazing and help make this whole channel possible. Thank you for your continued support. I will talk to you soon. May the Force be with you. Be excellent to each other. Live long and prosper. So say we all. Hakuna Matata.